Tim, we're based here on the Tipperary road heading towards Kilross. Explain a little bit more now, because we're taking in a lot about the history of Darby's Bed.
We're on the, as Stephen said, we're on the Tipperary road, run from Kilross right into the village. And on the background there you can see the peak of the Galties, known as Temple Hill or Trampoline. I'll come back to that later, but it was a site where the original inhabitants and pagan times used to go in summertime to have a sacrifice and celebration. But just at the top, where the road levels out on the top of the hill there, it's known in history as the height of the mill. And there must have been an old mill, water mill there, which ran, the water course ran down along the side of the hill opposite there and came across the road somewhere to where we're here. And they used the mill then to drive something at that stage. So there's a history of using the water around Galway. And after this now, on our right hand side is the hill known as the Black Hill, and it goes back for about a mile or so onto Duntree, where the old megalithic tomb, which we'll be talking about, Darby's Bed. And on this side, on our left hand side, going off to the left, it runs over along through Hill and over to Ballycrana and Corderry, and it finishes up in Slieve na Muck, which is above Tipperary. So it's running actually, the hill is running actually parallel to the Galties, and Galway is situated in the valley in between the two hills.
All right, then, Tim, we're just going to go down to the entrance and we'll show everybody exactly what we're talking about down there. So folks, as you can just see, we're just here at the entrance. Tim, it's back over to you once more.
Thank you, Stephen. We're just at the entrance. The main walk up to Darby's Bed is done by the national government. There is also a separate walk, a much shorter one. But this is very much used at the moment. An awful lot of people arrive on a Saturday in the village and come up here and climb up the hill, up to the megalithic tomb. And this is the entrance, which was done by money from national government. And you see that there's a number of flags around the place, showing the wildlife of the animals and the plants that were available, and the animals that if you're lucky, you'll meet some of them on your walk up to the Darby's Bed. And on this side is the main flag, which describes the history of Darby's Bed. And on the left-hand side are two figures, one a man and a woman, and they're called Diarmid and Grania. They were mythical figures from the time of the Fianna, and Diarmid eloped with Fionn McCool's daughter, and they were on their way to Tiernan out at that time where it was thought the middle of the Atlantic. And but the real history of Darby's Bed is it's a tomb of one of the high kings of Munster, a fellow called Olive, who was killed at a battle in Knocksown behind Kilmallock, and was brought over to the hillside here and survived for a year or two, with he had a very lot of wounds to his head, and they built a mound or tomb over him. Actually, the tomb is facing northeast, and we have a photograph taken a number of years ago of the sun setting in the northeast on the 21st of June, when the midsummer day. So that this was about 5,000 years ago these people lived. And we did mention that the Temple Hill, which we looked at coming into the village, they went up there in summertime as well and had a pageant or a celebration at the time. So that's just an outline of, we'll show you now hopefully a picture of the sun setting in Darby's Bed. And
now, Tim,
Stephen has just shown you a photograph of Darby's Bed taken on the 21st of June a number of years ago, and it's shown that the sun is setting in the northwest. Actually, if you look at the picture a bit, when you're walking, there's a pathway into the tomb itself, but the stones on the right hand side have fallen a bit in onto the path going in, so that it's stopping the sun from actually going completely into the back of the tomb.
Now, Tim, there's another picture I'm going to have a look at here. You're going to maybe just explain about this picture to us that we're just looking at. I'll just show that up now. Go ahead, Tim, yeah.
The photograph that Stephen has shown you now is our glacier, where we're standing here in Glenafee Gorge. Well, going back 10,000 years, the whole place was covered with ice. And this was what would it look like at that stage. The ice would have moved down from the north towards the village and up towards the Galtee, and it formed a number of lakes pushing stuff up against the Galtee, and the lakes are still there. But when the thing melted down, the glacier disappeared, and what it left is this valley here in between the two sides of the hill and the approach into the village.
I'm just looking around here again, Tim, and I've just taken in the sign itself. And of course the sign itself says Darby's Bed Loop Walk Point. So once again, it's just on the Kilross Road, just outside the village of Galbally.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Okay, Stephen. Yeah.
So once again, folks, you can just see we're here on the actual road itself, which is the entrance once more from the Tipperary side up into Darby's Bed. In a moment, I'll be back with Tim again. Now, Tim, you're going to talk to me about these fantastic stone walls.
We're still on the Tipperary Road, but much nearer to the village. And on your left side, as you approach the village, about 150 yards, you'll see a long distance of stone wall. This was all built under a scheme, an ANCO scheme at the time, involved the tidy towns, very early in our tidy towns, around 1980, early 80s. And we had John Cullen, who was the supervisor, trained a whole lot of lads on stone wall building. So in the beginning, it was one of the things we did, because there was going to be very little maintenance after. Actually, on the left-hand side is a dry stone wall built by a young lad, barely 19 years of age, Anthony Cunningham. I have to mention him because it's a credit to him, and he built the whole stone wall from there up to the buildings you see going into the village. And it's a great pride for him and a pride for us that there was some young lad trained to do this on the scheme at the time.
Yeah, it's a fantastic wall, isn't it?
It is.
There's a huge amount of work, Tim, gone into that.
Yeah, all right, yeah.